Hello, I'm David Hunt, CEO and founder of Hyperion Executive Search, and I'm here today in the podcast studio with David Beeston, who is our associate partner and head for our energy storage and grid division. David, good to have you with us.
Yeah, good to see you.
I just thought that we're heading into February already, which is kind of crazy. And even in the start of the year, it's been quite a busy time in grid and storage. Been a lot going on.
Oh, yeah. Understatement, I think. Yeah, it's... It can't believe it's February already, as you say. But the year's started off in lots of different ways, really, and really busy. Lots of developments, encouraging new technologies, which we can touch on shortly. But it's never stops in the storage world. So.
It doesn't. I think that's one of the values that we the feedback we get, obviously, at trade shows is quite often people say, we read your newsletters and we're kind of a font of knowledge. And that's nice for us to do, clearly, because it's, our bread and butter, and we're geeks and nerds at the best of times. So it's good for us to learn this stuff, but also to share it, amongst our audience. But so let's talk a little bit about, so there's a lot of talk last year about funding being down in the VC world, and that's just a fact. But there's still been some quite good stuff going on as we came into the new year in terms of investments.
Absolutely.
Which are the sort of maybe one or two that have really caught your eye in the first start of the year?
Yeah, I think the obvious one that is on everybody's lips is the continued investment in Northvolt.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of challenges with European battery manufacturing, with a lot of companies evaluating Europe. So to see Northvolt land in total €5 billion in debt financing, allowing them to go on and continue their commitment to the German plant, continue their commitments in Poland, Sweden, I think Canada now amongst the list. So that one, I think Northvolt, everybody's hanging their hat on in Europe as a real success. So that one naturally caught your eye. There's a couple of smaller startups and scale-ups that have started to catch my attention. So one in the UK called e-tron, who are good partners with a client of ours about energy. And they recently secured around €11 million in investment to further scale up and enhance their battery management systems, which are all AI powered. And then another one, which is a market that has become more and more of a growth area around repurposing batteries. So there's a company in Scandinavia called Cactus. And Cactus are basically repurposing batteries that have come out of the EV chain and are now using it for stationary storage. And they landed around €26 million. So again, decent sized tickets in a challenging climate. But I think total investment overall in the European segment was somewhere around 250 to 280 million euros, which is pretty good going in this space.
Yeah, I think it's not to be sniffed at. Let's just say there's a lot of, sometimes we can all talk ourselves into a doom circle. And of course, valuations went down last year. And yes, there was a lot of VCs were much more diligent, shall we say, in their putting the money down. But let's not forget, it's still, like you say, substantial things going on. A few you've touched on there. Clients of ours, Verkor, doing some big stuff in terms of European manufacturing.
That's right, yeah.
And again, we won't mention names, but one of our clients recently landing quite a decent ticket for whom you've just recently hired a CTO.
Yeah, that's right. Again, names kept aside, but a very exciting next-gen battery storage technology. Domestic market in the UK, but global appeal. And they've just successfully closed an interim round, and hopefully that then allows them to start scaling up their team. We've helped them with a C-suite, as you say, CTO, and further roles coming down the line, including a very experienced director of manufacturing. So watch this space, I guess, and you'll see more of that in the coming weeks. So.
That's so the money obviously releases the opportunity for this scaling. The other one that caught my eye, and it's mainly because I've met these guys so often in Berlin, and they've been on the podcast, was Instagrid, who got a €95 million investment. A little bit different in terms of the types of storage, but clearly it's battery storage, and they're doing some interesting stuff and expanding quite a lot.
That's it. I think a lot of people forget that storage encompasses lots of different use cases. So a lot of people concentrate on the large scale grid or the EV batteries, but the residential home market, all the innovation now around energy management systems and how you can link your charging with your home battery. I think there's just going to be more and more boom in that world. So
just picking up on your inner nerd, because it's a trait we all share at Hyperion, but you do a lot with very technical engineering and cell level kind of stuff. But I know from talking to you a lot, you're really excited and quite enjoying this. The more of the SaaS, the more of the sort of the integration of these technologies that's happening. Is there anything on the horizon, news wise or deal wise, that's really exciting you in that space?
Yeah, I think that market is only going to boom. There's a lot of market reform going on now where energy storage revenue generation is becoming visible to countries. So UK for a long time has led the way in terms of flexibility markets and opening up trading opportunities for energy. But I think now if you look at Germany right now are going through a reform discussion. There's an emerging markets going on in Sweden, Netherlands. So I think all that flexibility, how to optimize assets in the best possible way, but then also to actually realize we can really start to make significant revenues here if we can forecast and then trade our energy efficiently to the relevant markets that are out there. So
yeah, I think that's really one of the interesting things is that, well, there's twofold, of which is obviously to get the more renewables on the grid, we need that kind of, not just the actual physical infrastructure, but also the digital support for that, but also the recognition that in the right markets, and I should say the UK led the way a lot of that is, but there are ways to stack revenues to make it, commercially viable, and which then sort of brings in investment, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to some extent. So it's great to see those sort of things happening. But again, you've worked with a good few of those digital clients recently in bringing some talent across Europe.
Yeah, I think generally there's a big appetite for expansion across Europe within that client base. So looking at, as I said earlier, the markets are starting to evolve. So it's no longer just a UK play or a handful of countries. The whole European continent is becoming a marketplace. So we're helping a number of them with senior business development type roles, looking at where should we focus our next marketplace. US expansion is on everybody's lips. So speaking with companies around those first boots on the ground, regional VPs to come and help start to enter the New York markets or ERCOT, for example. So it's I think mainly on the commercial side, but like with any software, you've got to make sure that you're constantly innovating your offering, and the use of digitalization now is on everyone's lips. So again, we're starting to see chief digital officers, chief information officer roles, which are, I guess, still relatively new in our sector, but are going to be probably one of the dominant roles for the next 10 years. Yeah,
we've done a few, haven't we, in the solar space, also like VP of product, kind of like a CTO, but for a digital CTO in some regards. So there's a lot of activity there. One of the things we've got coming up, we're obviously going to be heading down to London for the Energy Storage Summit in a couple of weeks' time, I guess. What are you hoping to see there? What are you looking forward to most from those couple of days?
Yeah, I think like with any show like that, it's about getting back to the face-to-face relationship buildings first and foremost. So I think we're pretty clued up now on our sector, and it's going to be a great opportunity to go and pick the brains of some very smart people involved in the market, and I guess get insights into where the next predictive trends are going to come from. But I guess more fundamentally, it'd be good to see the actual execution strategy, because I think there's a lot of talk right now, and a lot of companies and countries, even at government level, talking about this is what we need to do. But like with anything, it's without action, it's just talk.
It's proof of the words. And going back 10, 15 years when I first started in solar, there was a phrase called braggawatts. Everyone was talking about how many watts they were going to be installed, and it was a lot of it was smoke and mirrors, so braggawatts. But you're starting to see a little bit of that in storage now, aren't we?
There's a lot of conjecture at the moment about oversaturation. There's lots of companies boasting these huge pipelines of look at my storage pipeline, and realistically we're only in the UK up to about 3.5 gigawatt. So in comparison to what's being claimed, we're a long way away from shovel ready projects. So it'd be good to see what the company's individual plans are to target that. Do we just focus on getting plants up and operational, or do we shift our attention to other countries, for example. So
yeah, and one of the things that you probably would have seen, and I know, is around obviously good connections and issues where storage can clearly help in that regard, but also they require, or the asset overall requires that connection. But there have been some legislations in the UK and elsewhere that are making it easier both to get the connection, but also in terms of the asset class terminology, which make the funding easier or more lucrative. So it's good to have seen some of those things, which hopefully will make some of these bragawatts actual watts at some
point. And I think there's also something really fundamental that came out just a couple of weeks ago around alternatives to lithium storage, lithium-ion battery storage. So for a long time, we've focused on the long-duration energy storage market, looking at alternative technologies, whether that be flow batteries, it might be thermal energy storage, even kinetic and gravity, although still yet to see too much of that come in. But I think we've So we've started to see actual strategies now being put in place for the acceleration of these technologies to come in. So the Department of Energy and Net Zero have announced around the plans for anything over 6 hours being classed as long duration, which keeps it, I guess, in some ways distant from the traditional shorter duration lithium-ion market. But with that, also bringing in some smart, what they're calling the cap and floor mechanisms. So making sure that for investors, there's an actual limit that you're going to be able to generate revenues above this level, but then for the consumer, keeping it capped at the price. So hopefully that will, I guess, add to the mix of energy security that we need, really, and not solely reliant on lithium. So
I think we've always talked about that. The business model innovation is often as important as the technical innovation. All those things going hand in hand, and both are required really to move us to where we need to be.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think in some ways there's a lot of legislation now, in fairness, that is encouraging. If you look at the C&I or residential market, VAT's now been scrapped on battery systems from February, which means hopefully the adoption of people using batteries in their home or small offices and buildings using batteries it'll ease the burden on the upfront cost, at least.
It'll help, especially for those of us that drive EVs and are starting to look at the rest of the house.
That's it. It'll help my business case with my fiancée and talking her into that's the next purchase. So
you don't need to get married. We just need a battery.
That's it. We only have a 1 week honeymoon rather than 2. So
you're a brave man doing that. So that's an exciting thing you've got coming up this year as well. But cool. So obviously we look forward to seeing many of you who will be at the Energy Storage Summit. That's always a great event for us. David's looking forward to actually launching a bit of a bi-weekly update. If you can share us a bit about what you're planning to do, where people can sort of get some of these insights. Yeah,
so on a fortnightly basis, we'll be sharing some of the deals that we've seen in the industry, some of the key trends and industry events that are making a difference, and giving some commentary on how we're seeing that not only impacting the market, but also from a talent perspective, how that's going to influence things. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be every 2 weeks. You'll start to see these insights and hoping to get as much feedback and insight from the fellow market players to give us some commentary on that.
No, it's good to share that, because again, people think of a search firm as purely sharing jobs, and but to be honest, sometimes we don't do enough of that. So there will be plenty of jobs where we can share. Not all of them are shareable, but where we can share. So there's loads of stuff we're doing as David starts to build the team operating across the Europe and North America. So there will be some job insights as well.
That's right.
But also very much these deals and trends and things that you're seeing as well. So
and they go hand in hand, obviously. So we always keep our finger on the pulse as to where the next market shifts may come from. And then obviously that will influence where the talent migration is going to follow. So there'll be a bit of everything in there. And a bit of just our personal insights and views. We don't necessarily follow every technology. We do have opinions on where we see the the future opportunities. So yeah, we'll add a bit of that into the mix.
I think the key thing is you and your team speak daily to so many people, and of course there's stuff that you keep confidential for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But then you can aggregate news and get a flavour for what's going on, because
that's right.
We can all read newsletters, but actually speaking on a daily basis with the movers and shakers in those businesses,
and
I think we learn so much, right?
That might be the investors and the pains they see, or the opportunities they see, but then it may also be those at the execution end and some of the shifts that are going on in their own career. And yeah, I think the beauty of this job is that we're speaking to industry players on a daily basis, like you say. So we're well educated and informed on some of the things that are going on. And yeah, hopefully we can add our insight too. So.
Perfect. Well, you can you can sort of follow that on LinkedIn, find David there. We'll both be at Energy Storage Summit. If you're going to be there, reach out, we'll grab a coffee. If not, then via LinkedIn, you can catch up with David and you can sign up for the sort of bi-weekly newsletter as well. But David, great to have you with in the studio.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, appreciate that.